Hello, we are the team that is presenting Australia and New Zealand. We are Maria, Gisela, Daniela, Mara, and Fiona.
Australia is one of the most powerful Asian Pacific countries, economically speaking. The value of export and imports of Australia represented 41% of its GDP. Australia has a strong legal system, trustworthy political process, and a stable political environment. Its strong rule of law minimizes the risk of corruption and protects property rights. New Zealand is a parliamentary democracy. The main strengths of the Kiwi economy is a high degree of monetary stability and a strong protection to property rights. The value of imports and exports in New Zealand represent 55% of its GDP. New Zealand was ranked in 4th out of 168 countries in
11 ships sailed from Great Britain and stopped in Australia, where the Aborigines were already living on the land. This was a very important event. Victoria was separated from New South Wales and became its own colony. Immigrants from all over the world came to Australia for gold, and as consequence, new ways of life, languages, and celebrations were brought into Australia, which made this country very multicultural and unique. This construction was a very important step in politics. It aims to obtain the same right for women as men. It was one of Australia's biggest industrial disputes. It was first flown in Melbourne in September 3rd. Anzac was a mark of respect for people who served and sacrificed their lives, to remember those who were sacrificed during the World War, and they showed respect by staying in silence for 2 to 3 minutes. A treaty between British and several Maori tribes pledged protection of Maori land and establishes, also referred to as land wars. Maori put up resistance to British colonial rule. New Zealand gains full independence from Britain. Treaty signed between New Zealand, Australia, and USA.
So we chose 3 main leaders from Australia. The first one is Malcolm Turnbull, that is the Prime Minister since 2015. And then we chose an older leader and Prime Minister, that was John Howard. And the third one is Bob Hawke, that was elected in 1969 as the President of the ACT.
Main influential leaders of New Zealand are Prime Minister Bill English, that since 2016, the Queen Elizabeth II, that is the head of state, and their powers are limited by the Constitution. Dame Patricia Lees, that is the General Governor.
In Australia, we chose 2 main artists, which are Fiona Hall. She is a photographer and a sculptor, and she engaged a lot with themes like ecology, history, and the effects of globalization. And also James Angus. He was also engaged in sculptures and the challenges of traditional norms, and he liked playing with volume, scale, and surface.
Ralph Houtier was known for the unusual use of materials and tools for creating works until 1970s. He used power tools and corrugated iron and steel while creating two-dimensional arts. Peter Robinson, his sculptural work is minimalist and conceptual, and it is full of contrast and opposing figures.
Australia is a representative democracy and constitutional monarchy with Queen Elizabeth II as Australia's head of state. The Australian Parliament is formed by the Queen, that is represented by the Governor-General, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. The Parliament passes laws which affect the whole country. Three arms of government in Australia: legislature, parliament, executive, Australian government, judiciary, legal arm of the federal government. The government of New Zealand is formed every 3 years after a democratic election. New Zealand is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system of government. The head of state, Queen Elizabeth II, is represented by the Governor-General Dame Patsy Reddy. Three branches of government: legislature is the House of Representatives, executive is the government and is made up by ministers of the Crown, judiciary is formed by judges and the court.
Australia and New Zealand participated in many conflicts, such as Boer War between 1899 and 1902, where more than 10,000 Australian soldiers sailed for South Africa to support British troops engaged in the war against the Boer settlers. This was also the first overseas conflict to involve New Zealand troops. Another rebellion is the Boxer Rebellion, which was a violent anti-foreign movement and uprising that took place in China between 1899 and 1901, towards the end of the Qing dynasty. Both countries participated in World War I and World War II, in the Korean War and the Indonesian confrontation from 1962 to 1966, and the Vietnam War from 1962 to 1975. In this war, Australia supported the South Vietnamese Army.
The countries have assimilated different cultural groups, but mostly British traditions. Both nations display a real sense of openness when communicating. For example, when you are invited for a dinner, it is not the host or the wealthiest member who pays for the entire meal. The bill will mostly be split amongst all the diners. The cities are characterized by low-density housing and dependence of private cars. Nearly all eaten foods, except seafood, were introduced after European settlements. People like to celebrate New Year and Christmas with a bathing suit, and there are usually a lot of fireworks. New Zealand has an area of 268,021 kilometers squared. Its population in 2017 estimates to be 5 million, and New Zealand is situated some kilometers east of Australia across the Tasman Sea. The capital is the city of Wellington, and the currency used is the New Zealand dollar. It is mostly mountainous land. Australia is the largest country in Oceania and the world's 6th largest country by total area, which is approximately 8 million kilometers squared. Its capital is Sydney, and their currency is the Australian dollar. As you can see in the map, it is mostly hot desert and savanna.
A skywriter wrote in the sky, "Vote no," after an anti-same-sex marriage campaign was launched. In an interview of ABC, Roger Corbett said comments about racism against black people and same-sex marriage. coronavirus outbreak has hit Wakatane Hospital in New Zealand. The officer-in-chief has urged patients to only go to the hospital if necessary. Peter Beckett was found guilty of the murder of his wife and was given 25 years of sentence.
Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders were the first inhabitants of Australia. Torres Strait lies between Cape York and Papua New Guinea, with 410,003 people. The dreaming controls naturally well. Ritual ceremonies involving special sacred sites, dances, and body painting, and even sports invoke these mythic and living beings and continue to provide the means to access the spiritual powers of the dream. Maori culture is composed by Eastern Polynesian people. Approximately 700 Maori people live in New Zealand. Origin from Waka, that means canoe, making reference to the canoes where they arrived to the sacred island of Hawaii. 86% of Maoris live in the Northern Island. The Maori people are the indigenous people of Historia and first arrived here in Waka, Aurora, from their ancestral homeland of Hawiwiki over 1,000 years ago. Hangi is decorated by pressing nose against the other person's nose. For men is a full face tattoo, and for women a lip and a chin mark. Is the traditional war dance nowadays. It is well known due to the use of it by the rugby national team. It consists in body slapping, hard standing, and showing the tongue widely. Traditional ceremony for welcoming visitors.